Dobar dan i dobrodošli u novu emisiju Nikole Kneza globezoom. Danas vam sa zadovoljstvom predstavljamo Inu Vukić, koja živi u Australiji. Sreli smo se na Cvjetnom trgu u Zagrebu kako bismo razgovarali o predstojećim izborima u Hrvatskoj, jednima od najvažnijih u našoj novijoj povijesti. Za svoj predani dragovoljni rad ostvarenja hrvatske državnosti gospođa Vukić je 1995. godine odlikovana sa 2 medalje časti od prvog predsjednika Republike Hrvatske, doktora Franje Dudjmana. Gospođa Vukić je također napisala 100 članaka za novine u Australiji i Hrvatskoj o borbi hrvatskog naroda za slobodu, nezavisnost i demokraciju. Gospođa Vukić ima već nadaleko poznatu web stranicu na kojoj se može pronaći bogata i pronicljiva politička analiza Hrvatske, njezinih ljudi, povijesti i kulture. Dobar dan, gospođo Vukić, i dobrodošli u globezoom. Drago mi je što oboje dolazimo u Zagreb u isto vrijeme. Kad ste vi zadnji puta bili u Hrvatskoj?
Due to the pandemic, we had 2 years border closure in Australia, and then had some things to do. So I came here 3 years after my last visit. Otherwise, I visit Croatia 2 or 3 times a year.
Kakav je vaš dojam? Da li se Hrvatska promijenila u te 3 godine?
The biggest shock, I think, I can describe it that way this time, is how strong the feeling and the impression is that in Croatia the values of homeland war are being trampled upon, almost like the former communists or the who call themselves anti-fascists are trying to erase the value of the 1990s homeland war for the independence. So as to seemingly rewrite history that even the current independent Croatia started in 1945. They seem to, the politicians and public officials and anything that I have come across, and I come across quite a lot, is that they avoid or omit to mention the fact that today's Croatia, independent Croatia, was actually created by the will of the people. The referendum of the 1990s for secession from communist Yugoslavia was 94% of voter turnout. 94% voted to secede from Yugoslavia. And the homeland war that ensued after that defended that people's decision. And the current politics in Croatia barely ever mention that referendum. That is was shocking and sad, very sad, that is happening in cultural. If you look at, for instance, cultural, if you look at the funding, if it was in Australia or United States, I'm sure that government budget for cultural events would at least be 70% American related and 30% minority related. In Croatia, it's the other way around. And this is, a lot of the former Yugoslavia, a lot of the pro-Serbian lobby films. I mean, there's actually no film funded about the homeland war. There are short documentaries and all that. They're not very, very well presented. A lot of them are privately funded through donations, not by government funds.
Ljudi bi ovu žalosnu situaciju mogli riješiti izborom domoljubnih političara na sljedećim izborima. Što mislite, hoće li se to dogoditi?
2024 will be a mega election year. There'll be parliamentary elections, there'll be presidential elections, there'll be local elections, and European Union elections. So I would particularly ask all those who are citizens of Croatia living in the diaspora to actually make an effort, if at all they can vote, because it's very important to change this. I would say it is insulting the homeland war.
Mnogi Hrvati žele promjene, međutim, često se kaže da ljudi nemaju prave političke alternative za izbor. Opozicioni političari nejasno artikuliraju svoje stranačke strategije o unapređenju ekonomije, o tome kako izgraditi pravedniji sustav i unaprijediti demokraciju u Hrvatskoj. Kako vi na to gledate?
Well, many people say that, and I always say there's always someone to vote for. It's better to vote for someone than not vote at all. I'm sure if someone is saying, yes, I'm going to vote, I'm just going to find out a little bit more about the candidates. The outlook depends on the voter.
Recite mi kako funkcionira izborni proces u Australiji. Imate li isti problema kao i mi Hrvati u Americi?
To give an example for Australia, when it occurs in the General Consulate in Sydney, in General Consulate in Melbourne, in General Consulate in Perth, and in the embassy in Canberra. So, if you live in Brisbane, where actually consular days occur on a regular basis, but not voting, which to me is bizarre, to say the least, you must drive 12 hours to Sydney or fly an hour and a half or two. So automatically the constitution and the law gives every citizen of Croatia the right to vote. And in the next article it says you can only vote in a consulate or in the embassy, which is actually awful. It's a terrible human right violation, human rights, because according to even the European Union and its human rights articles, voting, the right to vote, is a human right to participate in that legal sense. Yeah, Croatian electoral law says if you don't manage to register for vote, you just turn up and exercise your right to register on the day. And see, the diplomacy for the diplomatic missions in Australia have been just not accepting those, and that's wrong, and the people are not informed. The people are informed you must register. Well, you don't have to register if you cannot register. You can travel and register on the day. So we've got a lot of problem with that. Croatian people know that in Croatia, but in the diaspora, that's sort of not been open. The authorities have not been open as to what is possible. Because of those limits we have in the diaspora, we have sort of reduced our participation in voting.
Što mislite kako povećati izlazak birača iz dijaspore koji trenutno u malom broju izlaze na izbore?
There's a couple of things. First of all, undoubtedly, electronic and postal voting would give access to many. But if you look at that electorate 11, which includes Bosnia and Herzegovina and the diaspora, in that same electorate in Bosnia, the constitutional law that says you must vote in the consulate or embassy is not respected. You had last election, there was 42 polling places every kilometre or so in Bosnia, right? And in the whole of diaspora, only where there is an embassy or a general consulate. So, and in small Bosnia, a small part of that electorate, population-wise or whatever, there were so many. So there's a precedent that was made for Bosnia and Herzegovina, almost like gerrymandering, the concept of gerrymandering, where actually you fix the voter numbers according to the vote you want. And but this is quite starkly discriminatory against people living in the diaspora that we call overseas from Croatia. So that is, it can only be fixed by increasing the polling places like we used to have before 2010, which sort of meant the access was pretty fair because polling places were in Croatian clubs, and there are those everywhere, or in Catholic centres, as well as of course the diplomatic missions or whatever. And electronic voting, I don't know why that hasn't been, or postal votes, why there hasn't been sort of introduced for the diaspora, with controls, of course, because any fiddling can occur there, if they want, but still.
Poduzeli ste neke nove korake u vezi s izborima koji bi mogli stupiti na snagu već ove izborne godine. Recite nam malo više i podrobnije o svom projektu.
I'm a vice president of the Croatian Academy of Arts and Science in the diaspora, in the homeland, and some of our members from the committee have actually lodged a complaint or process with the Constitutional Court in Croatia that has been sitting in someone's drawer, for almost 2 years. And it's currently been taken over to the European Court of Human Rights. I have myself taken the thing at the European Court of Human Rights, and it's been put on hold to monitor what's going to happen at next year's elections. But we take that seriously, because if you have a constitution that gives you sort of some kind of equivalence, both by your number, by the the lookout of the electorate, as well as its significance in the creating of the independent Croatia, the knowledge it can bring, the diaspora and the experience it can bring as far as democracy development is concerned, is enormous, and it should be reflected in representation, but not like it used to be before 2010 when we had 13. The local people were represented diaspora. They don't have a clue what diaspora needs. So not much. Somebody might tell them. So it should be representatives should be Croatian citizens living abroad. There's no law. You live within an electorate. Electorate 11 is part of Croatia as far as the electoral law is considered. So that should be accommodated, or must be accommodated. But we have to see. Unfortunately, the pressure to insult and the diaspora to really insult its role in creation of independent Croatia is very strong in Croatia, very strong, and which basically means that I would love to see the diaspora join in a new goal. We had a goal helping to create the independent. We had a goal. We supported the Homeland War and the decision of Croatian people to secede. And now, there needs to be a new goal to democratize, to sort of move away from that communist mindset and laws that are still in force, albeit they are a bit sort of changed, tweaked, in modern Croatia, but they're not tweaked enough, to actually be adjusted to a full democracy. Yeah.
Što mislite o hrvatskoj vladi i njenom odnosu sa dijasporom? Kako sada stvari stoje? 3 su zastupnika koje bira vladajuća stranka. Ako nema zastupnika koje dijaspora bira izravno, kako netko uopće može tvrditi da je glas dijaspore zastupljen u Hrvatskom saboru? Nije li zapravo nezastupljenost dijaspore negacija demokracije?
My impression has been since, I don't know, year 2000, when the government changed in Croatia, is that increasingly the government appears to be sort of there, they'd like to show that there is a connection. So you had the creation of that office, government office for Croats living abroad, that has about 50 advisors from the diaspora, right? And that, from the start, was just a photo opportunity for government ministers in Croatia to take a photo with 50 people from diaspora and say, look at us, we're working with the diaspora. The advisors, as far as I have, the history will show us of that office that is supposed to be connection, is that the government or the powers really don't heed or listen to the advice of the needs of the diaspora. They pick and choose what they want to listen to. They pick and choose what they want to fund. They pick and choose who's going to go there. The instance is, I've complained officially, the law for the election nomination of advisors from the diaspora to the government body is that you must in diaspora be a member of a Croatian club or a Croatian association or whatever to be nominated. Now, where's the democracy is that? Who in America you can nominate an individual, a credible, reputable individual who's not a member of any club. You can nominate them. We have so many people in the United States, in Australia, who hold, university chairs, who are specialists, doctors, scholars, politicians who identify as Croatian descent. And you cannot nominate that person because that person is not. So you have the situation where those nominations are filtered through our diplomacy to reach Croatia. They're filtered. That's right. So if you've been if you're at all critical, even you might be constructive and well-meaning criticism against a government or something, you're ruled out automatically. So it's much like it used to be in Yugoslavia. I don't see. I have actually asked for that law to be changed 6 years ago. For that law for nomination, because I'd love to nominate, a Croat wherever he is in the world who is actually renowned for democracy, for advancement of society, for science, but you can't. I think that bigger pressure needs to be made from the diaspora and organisation, because we're not talking just of the diaspora. We're talking of Croatian citizens living outside of Croatia, and that's a powerful concept. It's not just diaspora where maybe 70% have not yet managed to become citizens of Croatia. What 30% are. Well, you're talking about that 30% which is valuable. That's a lot of people.
Zastupljenost dijaspore u vlasti je nikakva, ali je sudjelovanje dijaspore u hrvatskom gospodarstvu veliko. Podaci pokazuju da Hrvati iz dijaspore svojim novčanim doznakama godišnje pridonose gospodarstvu gotovo jednako kao i Hrvati u domovini.
What we are told, that comes in through the bank, that's one story. The full story is, it's almost half of that more, or if not more, that people bring cash in and spend here. So, it's a very significant.
Mnogi Hrvati u iseljeništvu, ali i njihovi potomci, željeli bi imati hrvatsko državljanstvo, ali nailaze na velike probleme kako bi ga dobili. Kako gledate na tu problematiku?
About 4 years ago, when Croatian citizenship laws were being tweaked, talking about tweaking again, and the government here has boasted how they made it easier. They made it not easier, really, because, they made the nostrification a little bit easier, but you still have to, it takes you years to prove that you're Croat descent. They made the automatic rights to citizenship different in that you can now register up to the age of 21 if one of your parents is a Croatian at your birth, was a Croatian citizen. Up to, it's not just a child, it's now up to, so that's a little bit improved. But Israel, this is what I brought up as well in some circles. Around about 1956, they brought in the law which is still current, and it's called the right of return. The right of return law means basically you live in America, you prove you're of Jewish descent no matter how far, what generation, 5th, 6th, 7th, doesn't matter, Sephardic, doesn't matter. You prove, and you want to come and live in Israel. You come to Israel within a month. You have a right, and you get your Israeli citizenship. So the citizenship in Israel, by this law, is based on descent, on ethnic, if you like, or religious descent.
I dodajmo tome da izraelska vlada nudi otvoreni plaćeni poziv mladima da posjete svoju državu i tamo provedu neko vrijeme. Takve mjere pomažu novim generacijama mladih iseljenika da razvije snažnu predanost svojoj etabliranoj domovini i da se eventualno odluči za privremeni ili trajni ostanak.
We have situations where, husbands and wives that might be of foreign citizens of a Croatian come and live in Croatia. And it's a nightmare to get a visa even for 2 years of citizenship. You must come here, they give you a 3 months tourist visa, and then they might, then you've got to struggle to get a 2-year visa. This is the spouse who's a foreign citizen. Why don't you give that foreign citizen 4 years? Yeah, come, see if you like it, see if you can succeed. Like a permanent residency or semi-permanent or temporary. In America, Australia, they have temporary residential visas for 3 or 4 years or whatever. Well, Croatia needs to have. There's just no will that will actually fulfill all those needs. And then I'm glad to see there is people returning, quite a few people return, but there needs to be, a lot is on them. They take a lot upon themselves, to sort out, to find out, to create a business, to try and see. There's not too much organized strategy. Actually, there's no strategy.
Što mislite, koji bi napori potaknuli čvršći odnos dijaspore i domovine? Koliko je realno očekivati da će se Hrvati iz dijaspore masovno vraćati u Hrvatsku?
But there's a return is not the only way to connect or be part of Croatia. There's so many ways, and there's so many ways to assist and to keep connected, because in a lot of cases, it's unrealistic for return. People have kids, little kids, families have mortgages in the West, buying home. You can't just pick up and leave. You need some security, if you will, or some organized security that you will be able to find a job without a problem, that you will compete without a problem in a job, that there won't be jobs you'll be competing with already promised, the nepotism, that you need to get a fair access to, if you're going to create a business or start a business, that you get a tax relief, or at least 5 years. Normal countries do that. There's all sorts of things. So I'm hoping that we're looking at I think next 5 years will show us whether there is hope or not, because many that are returning, thank God, have not cut the ties with the place they've come from. They have retained that safety net where they kept either investments or property, or have families to rely on if they're in trouble. So there's the return in Croatia here is not really a return.
Pitanje dvostrukog oporezivanja je veliki problem za hrvatsku dijasporu. Čini mi se da je ta mjera na snazi jer se time destimulira sudjelovanje dijaspore u Hrvatskoj. Recite nam što naši ljudi u Australiji misle o tome.
Well, the double taxation still exists. So if your pension and some other income is higher, whatever, you will be taxed in Australia. So it's part of it. And then you come to Croatia, and the Australian pension compared to the Croatian one is high. It's much higher. So the tax is high. So in effect, you can end up paying 30 to 40% tax. Not to talk about health insurance, which is unfair for the returnees in Croatia. The health insurance in Croatia, the fee for health insurance depends on the amount of money on income. There's no set health insurance price. So if you have a small pension or have nothing, you will not pay much. But if your pension is like normal Australian, you will pay, maybe 1,200 euros a month. It's or 1,000 euros or whatever. It's graded or means tested. Health insurance for returnees or foreign citizens is means tested, which is wrong because there should be a standard fee for health insurance. It costs the same to treat a rich person and a poorer person. I spent a decade, I was CEO of government-funded mental health and disability services in Australia for decades. And so, these things, these details affect me.
Što biste vi poručili Hrvatima u dijaspori o Hrvatskoj?
The best thing that I experienced with Croatia is that there are a lot of great people, a lot of good people, a lot of positive people, who sometimes may feel helpless to change what's around there. But Croatia is a country where building a life, especially for young family, can really be a wonderful experience. It's a different type of life, more relaxed, if you like, than what it is in the West. If you're productive, you work, you live. It's really a nice. It's really a nice place to live. You're close to anywhere in Europe. So my message would be to consider to come and try for a lot of young family to secure that connection, the physical connection. I think that is very important. It's important to me. I have with the grandchildren that can camp one day on a piece of land and say, "Hey, Baba was born here." You know what I mean? That's very important. Language, if they don't speak Croatian language, it's no longer that big a problem. You learn it, but everybody speaks English because there's a lot to be, especially now when it's in Schengen and it's just free. You can get a job anywhere, in any country you want. If you want to travel, spend and come back home for a weekend. If you want to work in Vienna, you want to work in I don't know what, then come home. A lot of people in the West work away from home and then come home, or whatever. Driving, to Italy, it's like a 2-hour affair. It's besides being beautiful, Croatia the roads are amazing. The highways, the expressways. I have not seen them anywhere, not Australia, not United States, not anywhere. Croatian connectivity of roads are just absolutely just to die for. Really, you can be, 2-hour drive from Zagreb, you're in Zadar or the Riviera or whatever, and it's just you can go for coffee if you want.
Svjedoci smo slabe, neadekvatne i inertne politike hrvatske diplomacije u svijetu. Što mi osobno možemo učiniti da poboljšamo vlastitu sliku Hrvatske među građanima svijeta?
We need a new common goal in the diaspora, but that common goal must be matched from Croatia. I'm not sure that the current political climate and Serb lobby and to criminalize the homeland war, whatever, is the right. It's not the right mentality to build that bridge. When you got on the other side, we are free, And these here saying we are free because of communists in 1945, and we're saying we are free because of 1990. You know what I mean? So there is I'm hoping that there will be an adjustment, because Croatia does have a lot of people similar to us who live in the homeland as far as the mindset is concerned and as far as the goal is concerned. So we need to strengthen through foundation, or a stronger collaborative sort of union, Croats on all the continents, and just sort of funnel that into a bridge and strong acting. So lobby, we must become professional in lobbying.
Znam da ste puni ideja i stvaralačke energije. Pretpostavljam da radite na mnogim projektima. Mogu li pitati koji je sljedeći projekt Ine Vukić?
Well, I dream about maybe participating in the drive for a new, something like a foundation from the diaspora that would have a clear mission into lobbying and assisting the development of democratic processes in Croatia. Because in Croatia, the power is still behind the counter, not in front, where the client is. In all the government funded, the power is behind the counter. They can shut off the counter, go for coffee, they can interpret law to what they want, they can sort of pressure you to, give them a bribe if you want something done, so, these are the corruption. I'm not saying that corruption doesn't exist everywhere, it does, but it's the checks and balances and the audits that you have, the standards of behavior of public servants that you have, and that are auditable, independently auditable and responsible, accountable to the nation, that are important. We don't have that.
Poštovana gospođo Vukić, hvala vam najljepše na ovom dinamičnom i sadržajnom razgovoru. Nadam se da ćemo se vidjeti u izbornoj godini nakon izbornih rezultata i da ćemo imati priliku nazdraviti izboru novih demokratskih političkih snaga koje će služiti na dobrobit našeg naroda kako u domovini, tako i izvan nje. Vjerujem da bi suradnja i bolje povezivanje Hrvata u Hrvatskoj državi sa Hrvatima iz dijaspore omogućila procvat naše lijepe domovine, unapređenje demokracije i izgradnju pravednijeg društva. Dragi gledatelji, toliko za danas sa Cvjetnog trga u Zagrebu. Vidimo se sljedeći put. Do tada srdačno vas pozdravljam i želim svako dobro.